Hey guys, Vamp here, and today I want to talk to you about Destiny 2 Edge of Fate. I want to talk about the expansion as a whole, as well as the bunch of the changes and updates that came with it, and some of the good and bad things about them. I've played a lot of hours, I think like 150 hours since Edge of Fate released. I've had the time to do that, and I've grinded power up to just over 400. I think I'm 403 at the moment, so I've got a pretty good grasp of the whole kind of span of things that the expansion has to offer. And I'm going to start talking about the campaign. There's going to be just mild spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers at all, then skip to the timestamps in the description for the stuff afterwards. But I'll start with just a quick little overview of what I thought of the story as a whole. It was, really good. There was a little bit sort of early on where I felt like I just had a thought of like, not a lot's been happening, but it wasn't to a fault. It wasn't a problem. It was just kind of a passing thought. But outside of that, it was an incredible story overall, exploring characters new, returning, and otherwise those we knew existed, but knew very little about. And here's where spoilers start. So we meet Lodi in the first mission, and he was a refreshing character to hear from and learn about, as he kind of seemed like just a dude. And we haven't really had that in Destiny, where we just have a guy that we kind of seem similar to us as people. And learning about both his and Ikora's backstory was pretty awesome. And then having Orin coming in as the retired emissary of the Nine, with her dialogue of a scrambled brain where all that's going on has been really cool. Quite entertaining, some of that. And then Drifter, his involvement with her, as well as in the becoming a kind of important character of the story, was really good. And the dialogue between Drifter and Orin made me giggle a little bit at times.
So Orin, you quit and now you're just here?
My
What the
tosis.
fuck?
Annoying you had to see me like this now. Scrambled eggs in someone else's shoes. How have you been?
She's actually just like, her brain's just so fucking jumbled.
Feet planted on the ground more often than not. Seeing someone new these days.
Oh, good.
Oh, I wonder if they were exes.
Can't say the same. I've been too busy corralling my electrons. Who are you seeing?
It's, Eris Morn.
You have a type, Drifter. I'm happy for you both. Really.
And of course, Drifter's important because of his ties in with the Nine, and that's one thing. It's just like we actually hear from the Nine, which is pretty crazy considering how long it's been that the Nine have just kind of existed in the background. And we get to kind of see some of the ways they've been planting seeds or pulling the strings in the background and all across the Destiny universe. So that's really cool. And then we have the antagonists. Now, in the first mission, we also get to hear from the Archon, who is the main antagonist for the actual Edge of Fate campaign itself. And spoiler warning for a bit later, I'll mention the secondary antagonist that is kind of set up for bigger things. The Archon is very much the closest thing we've had to a Disney villain, where he's just like, haha, I'm going to do this amazing thing, and everyone will be great. And it's sort of like a religion. He wants to have all of the fallen there to ascend, and he wants to become the House Ascended or something. Really cool. I love the way he rambles and rants and grandstands as well. He's like, wow, we are the best. I'm going to rule everything, or whatever the fuck.
That sounds like
It's great. Just listening to him, I think, is quite funny. I think his voice actor's done a great job. Actually, all the voice actors have done really well. I think his part in this is very good. And then this is the more spoilery part, is somewhere in the second half, stuff you might be able to work out if you have played in previous seasons. We find the conductor's been pulling some strings as well. And she's definitely got some big things going on, and the implications of her ties in with the end of the story and the end of the story itself are very big for the future of the narrative. But yeah, she could be crazy powerful. Definitely seems like it. Then last of all, we have the people of Kepler, and the people of Kepler, the Aeonians, don't speak English, or don't speak our language, and so we have to initially we only get to know the gestures they're making through a little text box they're now using at the bottom, and then as you unlock, basically learn their language more, you get to know what they're saying. At least through translations, effectively, you don't hear it, but at least on the little box says what they're saying. And they're kind of interesting. We don't learn a lot about them, at least not through the main story. You learn little bits and pieces about what they're doing there, and yeah, not heaps. I haven't really found myself super interested in them as characters, but it seems cool. And then the location Kepler itself is, I don't think there's anything standout amazing about Kepler itself. In terms of like story implications, it's like, yeah, it's a place over there. Obviously, the Nine have some higher involvement at Kepler, which is interesting. The design of the place kind of reminds me a bit of Io, but then there's the fungus everywhere, and the trains, just trains. But yeah, no, it's cool. I don't think nothing comes to mind when I'm thinking about like, oh, some amazing place at Kepler, except like the end of the campaign. But that's there, or the hub where the city is. That's kind of cool. It's pretty good. But yeah, I think that's kind of it for campaign and Kepler. I want to talk about gameplay. Now, the gameplay for the campaign was pretty good, but I think it had a bit of issues with perhaps the amount that they make you do puzzles that are not super thought-provoking, especially early on, where the most thought-provoking part is like, hey, there's a thing you have to charge with the ball, go find the ball thing, and then, oh, there's a hole, which means you're going to have to go through that with the ball. Or it's like, okay, there's a portal. The portal gun's cool, but like, you don't use it very interestingly. It's not like you have to like get funny puzzles. There's like one or two things you rearrange, and the portal works. The ball's controls and had some issues with like camera flicking a bunch early on. It feels a lot better after the campaign. You get the ability to use it anywhere. But during the campaign, it just feels like you kind of made to use it a lot. I didn't mind the ball personally, but I could see why people were quite annoyed at it. I was just chilling and vibing with my brother and one of my friends playing through the campaign, so I didn't have too many complaints about it. I know that some of the enemies during the campaign felt a bit too tanky, and but like didn't struggle with it at all. And then it felt very easy, even on legendary. But yeah, it was fine. Definitely not great, but it was fine the gameplay wise for the campaign. I know that after you've done the campaign, you get the higher world tiers. Mythic feels disgusting. Even with 3 people, you just sit there for so long, just plinking at bosses. You end up with like the bugged scout dealing absurd amounts of damage, or just like outbreak, because what else are you going to use when you're out of ammo and the thing still has 2/3 of its life left? It's kind of nuts. But yeah, look, that's fine. Then in terms of the weapons and armor that were introduced with Edge of Fate, I think the ones that actually came with the expansion are pretty good overall. I think the new set bonuses that they've done for armor are quite nice overall. I think they're a neat new thing to have. The ones specifically from the expansion, I think, are pretty average. And all the new weapons, including the exotics, I think are reasonably good. Nothing too crazy. I think the hand cannon has been the standout that you get after the campaign ends. But other than that, the armors are just kind of fun, and the season pass scout rifle is like pretty good. It was bugged for a bit and did way too much damage, which was funny. But yeah, and all the weapons that came alongside the expansion, but not as part of it. I think the standout has been the Rocket Pulse, Mint Retrograde. That's been, people have been loving that. And then there's just been a whole bunch of like pretty good or solid options across the board. And on the topic of weapons and armor, all non-exotics now have a tiering system where each tier of armor gives it higher stats base, and then at tier 4 you get extra energy. At tier 5 you get a tuning slot, which allows you to adjust stats in a certain way. It's a bit weird, doesn't matter, just fine-tuning your stats. And for weapons, like your base one is just a standard weapon. Your tier 2s have enhanced perks. Tier 3s have 2 sets of enhanced perks. 4s have enhanced barrels and mags and mods. And 5s have enhanced origin trait and a shiny shader and a third set of enhanced mods. Named perks, rather. And so it's really cool. You get the incremental boosts as you get each tier. I think the system like that is quite cool to have. There's a bit of a problem where some of the lower tiers feel quite redundant because you just want to replace them early enough anyway. Me being someone who's had a lot of time to grind, I've kind of very quickly moved on to the higher tiers. I think the tiering system itself is fine. It's how you earn them that becomes a little bit of a problem, which is a lot tied to power. I'll talk a little bit more about power in a second, but basically tiers themselves are locked to the power that you are at unless they're specifically rewarded by something. So up until you hit power 200, you'll pretty much only find tier 1s with the occasional tier 2. And then 200 to 300, you get tier 2s with the occasional tier 3. 300 to 400, you get tier 3s, occasional tier 4. And 400 up, you get tier 4s, the occasional tier 5. And I assume once they eventually release 500 power, you'll start getting tier 5s quite often. This kind of leads to people not caring about grinding at lower power levels. They don't really want to try getting the rolls that they want for the weapons, because if they just bump up their power more, they can just get the equivalent to higher tier, which means you have, better odds of getting the perks you want, as well as just like more stats across the board. So it's a bit of an issue there. And I think I'll go into power a little bit now. So power's been changed quite a bit. It's now more tied to your gear rather than just XP grinding, which I think is good. The problem is the way they've done the portal now, which I'll talk about in a second, is it's a case of people just find the activity that rewards gear the fastest and just repeat it over and over again. That's sort of a problem with how power's done and how the portal's tied to it, because most of the power that you get now is going to be just from portal once you've done the campaign. I've actually enjoyed the grind overall, but I've had a lot of time. And I think a lot of people who don't have as much time are not going to be enjoying it as much. Then the portal. So I think the portal overall is quite good. It has a whole suite of activities with different bonuses, and they have bonus focus each day. There's a couple of activities that are selected for basically extra drops. So on that day, you're going to get extra drops by doing this, and it enables matchmaking on all the fire team ops that have that. So that allows you to actually, do custom ones rather than just the quick play. When I say custom, like pick which one you want rather than just the quick play. And the portal is the main way you get power now, where pretty much every time you do portal and you get a good enough score, you're going to gain power upgrades. And that's how you'll get your power up to then get the higher tiers of stuff and all that. And the activities of the portal, solo ops has been, fine. They have a rotating each day where most activities, like in solo ops, will change like factions, so different objectives, and they got these nice side objectives, though a lot of people are finding that the side objectives sometimes take too long and skip, and that's kind of a bit of a problem. And the fire team ops is all your strikes and battlegrounds and all this stuff, and pinnacle ops currently is exotic missions, which is really cool that it's in there. But again, it comes at a time where people just find the activity that'll get them stuff the fastest, and just do that over and over again. Right, the portal itself, pretty good. I think it's done what they wanted it to do, where unless you're going out for something very specific out in the world, you're gonna spend most of your time in the portal. It's probably not as simple as it could have been, particularly with all the difficulty modifiers and all this other shit. I know they wanted it quite simple for new players. It's reasonably there, but maybe not all the way there. And now I'll just get into the overall thoughts I have of the seasonal grind and new gear, because that's a bit of a problem. And I'm going to tie together the things I've just mentioned about the portal power tiering system kind of in a concise thing, and then I want to give some kind of recommendations. I think where they're at now is a stepping stone to where it should be. I think there are some good things. I think overall it's pretty good, but there's a bunch of issues. As I said, I've enjoyed it. I've had the time to grind, but that's me who's had the time to grind. There's problems. Even I've faced a bunch of problems with it. One is, I think that new gear, having the inherent bonus damage and damage reduction, especially tied to tiers, is a problem, because it means that you are arbitrarily getting more damage for having higher tier stuff, and that makes the low tier stuff even less valuable, especially while it is new gear. And that means that people are always going to want to boost power as quickly as possible to get the high tier stuff as quickly as possible while it is still new gear. And that causes issues. Again, this part has not been a super big problem for me, but I can see it's a big problem in general. It being new gear should not be the incentive to get higher tiers. I understand that they want some extra reason to use the new stuff. I don't think... I think having maybe a bit of DR and damage boost to new gear is fine. I don't think tying it to tiers is a good idea. Like, give like a flat 5% damage to all new weapons. Something like that. I don't know. Because at the moment, people already want the higher tier stuff for the inherent benefits that it has. I don't think tying that in with new gear is something they should be doing. I also think adding featured exotics to make so like certain things are counted as new gear is honestly really stupid. I think that the stuff that defines the meta should be the cool modifiers they put in the artifact, not just, again, some arbitrary stuff they put on random fucking exotics that they pick. Like, add cool effects to the artifacts that help certain sorts of builds. Yes, great. Don't just say these exotics do extra damage and these exotic armor pieces give extra DR. That is silly. I also think that the way that tiers of gear is tied to power isn't quite right. I understand, yes, get higher power to get better stuff, but I think the way it should work instead is the better stuff comes from the harder content. Getting higher power just makes it easier to do the harder content. I'm not 100% sure on a good way to do that. For example, tier 4 and up only naturally drops, I say naturally because you get rare ones otherwise, from 400 plus. I think instead of it being from 400 plus, it should just be if you're fighting enemies 400 plus. That's just my quick solution, would be if you're fighting enemies 400 plus, you can get tier 4. So even if you're 350, if you fight a 400 enemy, you get tier 4 or higher. I think that's a better way of doing it with the system they have in place, unless they do bigger changes. Just so you don't need to be 400 before you consistently get tier 4s. You can do it earlier if you want to push your difficulty up. I think that'll just be a quite easy way for them to do it. I also think that the scoring system for the portal is a bit flawed. I get that as you get higher power, getting higher score to keep progressing enough power is fine. What I think is really silly is the way that the reward brackets work, the reward rank works, alongside the fact that new gear and power count towards your score. New gear counting towards your score I can kind of understand, but again, with the way that they've compounded the damage resistance, damage, and like that based on the tiers, the way that they have, and then they're also doing scoring based on new gear, it's like, well, now you're just kind of forced into it unless you just want to suffer otherwise. It's a bit weird, but tying power to the amount of score you get is very odd, because it gets to this thing where I understand when you hit 300, for example, and you're getting the higher tier loot, you need more score to get the max amount. Cool, sure, great. But what doesn't make sense is I hit 320, and I'm not getting anything better at that point, but suddenly I have to fight 350 power enemies, just randomly. And then as I hit 340, I'm now fighting 340 enemies, because my power's higher, I can make the difficulty down. Shouldn't I be doing this level content and then I get stronger so it becomes a bit easier, not that I can actually just do easier content to get the same score? And it's this like weird kind of here's my power, here's the difficulty I'm doing, and I hit this breakpoint here, and suddenly, like, well, as I go up, this can come down, and because I'm getting more score naturally, I don't have to make it as hard. And then I reach, 340, and suddenly I have to do harder again. And then it goes like this, and then I can make it easier, and then I make it harder again. And it's really odd. I feel like if they want you to be making consistent progress, it should be a case of you have to fight stuff a little bit stronger than you, get a bit more power, blah, 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 blah. And then there are certain breakpoints where you get like the higher tier gear, for example, which then maybe it needs to be a jump harder or something. I don't know. It's a bit of a mess though, how this bouncing works with the power of enemies you fight compared to your strength, the scoring. I don't think the system overall is bad. There's just so many weird little bits and pieces that are bad about it. I don't know. I feel like I'd rant for this ages. I have to my friends, and it's frustrating because, as I said, I have enjoyed it, but so many weird little issues. But if I have to say, kind of, I guess I'll close this out. I think the expansion overall has been very good. They are trying a new system which has laid the groundwork for the future, which I think is, the groundwork itself is good. There's a lot of details they have to tweak though. They need to make this a lot better. I don't know if they'll ever hit a middle ground between people who have a shitload of time and people who have barely any time. Because how can you make something accessible for everyone but still have things to grind for later if the things to grind for are not accessible to everyone? It's weird. At the moment, there's a problem because none of the people who don't have a lot of time are going to hit tier 4, 5 stuff reasonably in any space of time. But yeah. Look, we'll have to be patient, keep giving Bungie feedback. They haven't got it right now, but I don't think it's bad overall. It needs improvements. So I think with that, I have ranted enough. I have probably got to go to sleep. I've been trying to stream more on Twitch and on YouTube. So come check me out on Twitch TV/VampStrike or here on YouTube. I'd rather on Twitch. I'm trying to do more there. Should be fun. Have a lot more fun streams as opposed to this sort of review rant shit, although I might do quite a bit of ranting over there. But yeah, support it, chuck a like, chuck a subscribe. Thank you so much for watching if you made it to the end, and peace out.